Hi, I'm Femi OK. Today the stream is revisiting stories that you're following. Lebanon's so-called rape law has been scrapped, but activists say the repeal doesn't go far enough.
And I'm Dan Ming. What's next for Zambia after its opposition leader was released from prison?
Lebanon has scrapped a controversial rape law that allowed rapists to marry their victims to avoid punishment. Take a look at this video our colleagues at AJ Plus made.
أنا جاي لأنه إحنا متعرضين بحياتنا لتحرش جنسي، بنعرف هالإحساس، بنعرف شو بيصير فينا بالليل، ما بنقعد ننام، ما بنقعد ناكل، ما بنقعد نشرب، بنقعد نفكر ليل ونهار شو عملنا حتى صار معنا هيك.
وعم نقول لكل العائلات انه الحل مش بتزويج المغتصب من المغتصبه، ولكن الحل بتجريم الاغتصاب وبالغاء الماده 522 ومعاقبه المجرم. وبنعتبره انتصار للحركة المجتمع المدني وانتصار للحركة النسائية بلبنان.
But there are still loopholes that would allow this scenario to take place, and child marriage remains legal. Here to take a look at this legislation, help us unpack it. In Lebanon, we have Saja Michelle. She is Programme Associate at the Abad, also known as Resource Centre for Gender Equality. Saja, it's good to have you here. I want to show people some of the vivid imagery from the campaign that you've just been focusing on. These stunning images really helped you make your point. I'm just going to show one more here as well. And the idea is that you can cover up rape by putting a wedding dress on it. What was your strategy when you went out to aggressively campaign to stop this law from taking place?
I mean, I think what we tried to do is to have as many people on board with us because the law was really appalling and we just wanted to find the best means to go heads on. So what we tried to do is to have community members on board with us, but as well to gather a lot of media attention on the cause, just because we felt that the media can play a very proactive role in maybe pushing Parliament to change this. So, I mean, we just gathered everybody around the table and we pushed hard.
So Saja, you clearly ran a successful campaign. The law was abolished. We have this tweet here from Tarira. I want to read it to you. She says, "It's baffling why such laws are still in existence. It's a step in the right direction, but much more has to be done." So I just want to ask you, in running this campaign, was there a particular message that you found that resonated, that changed people's minds?
I mean, what was interesting is before we even launched the campaign, we tried to get feedback from communities. So we did a poll to better understand how many people knew about the law and how they felt about it. So what was interesting is that only about 1% of the people interviewed in the poll knew that the law existed, which was really shocking. And so, but once we tried to speak with them about how they felt about it, if it needs to be abolished, 70 to 80% of them felt that, you know what, we need to do something about it. It needed to change. And so I think that helped us, gather confidence from communities that they were ready for such change. And I think it was just, it's a crazy law. And
what were the stories you were telling people, Saja, to actually illustrate how this actually happens in Lebanon? If they didn't know it was happening, what were the stories you were telling them? Say, for example, this happens.
I mean, I think people knew it was happening. They just did not know that there was a law that is allowing this to happen. And so I think at some degree we have an honor culture whereby, I mean, families, they think of short-term solutions when rape or sexual assault happens. For them, the fastest, quickest option is to hide it. How can we cover it up? And so the best option would be to marry off the victim or the survivor of sexual assault to the rapist. But I mean, we tried to show them that this is not the best option. There are other options for survivors, and the law should be there to protect survivors, not to further incriminate them. And I think that was very successful.
So Saja, we got this tweet here from Lena. She says, we also must foster a culture conducive to equality and empowerment for women. Laws are a start, but attitudes and practices must change. So Saja, how do you think that this larger cultural shift can happen? What's needed for that?
Definitely. I mean, I think this is an amazing quote and really summarizes our efforts and our thinking for the long term. So, I mean, for us, the policy change was just one component of what we're thinking of doing. I mean, policies are sexy, they're catchy, we're getting media attention, which is amazing and great. But this was one part of the strategy. So we have a 3-year strategy whereby now we've already started and we will continue working with communities to educate about the new law, firstly, but secondly, about what does it mean for someone to be a survivor of sexual assault, and how does the family and the community how can they all play a positive role in supporting and empowering these girls and women to seek a better life. And so, I mean, our efforts will continue. Definitely, there's a lot of community work in order to change the social fabric, because like Lena said, I mean, attitudes and behaviors, at the end of the day, it's community members doing these actions,
Saja,
whether the law existed or not.
You didn't get everything you wanted. There were some clauses in this so-called rape law that you didn't get. Tell us what you didn't get.
I mean, for the rape law specifically, it was fully abolished. I think there was some controversy about consensual sex with a minor. And I think a little bit more work can be done around that. So the new law states that for consensual sex among minors between the ages of 15 and 18, if the girl is willing to get married, then a civil judge can allow this to happen, of course, with the consultation with a social worker. Ideally, we hope for this to be better tweaked. But for now, I think I'm just going to take a moment and celebrate.
Enjoy.
Because I think what happened, I mean, it's amazing.
It's like, just
until
take a breath
month,
for a
maybe
moment.
Next month, we'll start thinking of next steps forward. But now we're just enjoying the moment.
There's a picture here on the Abad Facebook page, and this picture is a glorious picture. Have a look here. Is this the face of celebration right here?
That's actually me. It's funny. But yeah, I was kind of the mascot.
You look good in white.
Thank you. I was actually the mascot for this campaign, the live mascot for the campaign. Yeah, it was an amazing moment. And I think sometimes we don't sit down and relax for at least 1 week and just enjoy the success. Of course, there's always more things to do. There are many vulnerable communities. Women and girls still did not and cannot attain equal power, not only in Lebanon, actually worldwide. We live in a patriarchal society, and that's the fact.
Sure.
So, I mean, a lot is still to be done. But, I mean, today, this week, we're just celebrating in Lebanon.
So echoing exactly what you're saying, we have this tweet here from Reem. She says, there's still work to do on all levels, but this does not mean that we don't celebrate this huge step in the right direction.
Saja Michelle, it's been a pleasure having you on from Abad. Thanks for being part of the stream today. Take care.
Thank you, Femi. Thank you, Dan.
Now to Zambia, where opposition leader Hakainde Hichilema was released from prison last week. Hichilema was arrested in April and charged with treason after a confrontation between a convoy he was traveling in and the motorcade of President Edgar Lungu. Police said Lungu was endangered when Hichilema refused to make space on the motorway. But many saw this incident as fallout from a bruising election in which President Lungu won by a razor-thin margin.
So questions still linger as to why Hichilema was released and the charges against him dropped. Here to help us discuss this in Zambia, we have Jacqueline Shishima. She is communications specialist with United Party for National Development. That's the opposition party in Zambia. And Anthony Mkwita is a diplomat at the Embassy of Zambia in Sweden and also the author of a biography on President Edgar Lungu. It's good to have you both here. Let me start with a piece of video. It's a celebration. Have a look at this. Have a listen to this. Jacqueline, people celebrating the release of Hichilema from prison, from custody. When you saw that, what did you think? Where were you? Were you in the crowd?
No, I was actually in my office at a media organization that I run. And the first thing that came into my mind was that, thank God, the political playing field will be leveled again, because Zambia is coming from a history where opposition parties and the ruling party tend to debate issues of economic development that benefits the people and not individuals. So I was highly relieved, not just for myself, for the majority of Zambians. And when I say the majority, I know that even those that are in the ruling party were actually relieved that Hakainde Hichilema was released, because then obviously the tension that was experienced in the period that he was in prison was slowly dying out. And everyone now had a new hope and looking forward to a better Zambia, where the two leaders who our lives are in their hands, that's President Edgar Lungu and President Hakainde Hichilema, can probably now once again sit on a table, and we'll see a lot of the issues that the opposition is trying to fight that should be ironed out, being ironed out now.
Anthony, what did you make of those celebrations?
I looked at it from the aspect that Zambia never ceases to show that it is a country that is able to face challenges and come out of them smelling like $1 million. I looked at it as saying that Zambia and Zambians shall never stop to show that there is no bottom to the well from which they draw an inspiration to be a stable and progressive democracy that will always have differences, but at the end of the day, still gel together and find that there is more that unites them, much more than that which divides them. That is the aspect that I saw this whole thing from.
I'm hearing a lot of optimism from you both, but I have to say all the Zambians who are tweeting us online, there are a lot of people in Zambia tweeting us, are a little bitter about the fact that opposition leader Hichilema was imprisoned in the first place. And Jacqueline, I want to read you this tweet. It's from Teflon General. He says, the release was expected, and it gives the impression that the entire ordeal was meant to teach him, meaning Hichilema, a lesson. Do you think that's true?
Well, that's what it is, because in the very beginning, the charges were trumped up. They were not very clear. And I think as a nation, we needed to resolve this amongst ourselves, as opposed to waiting for other stakeholders, especially foreign stakeholders. And as you are aware, the Commonwealth did help us. Our judicial system, and in particular, even the Chief Justice herself, they should have made sure that justice prevailed from the very beginning. The charges were trumped up. The international community was up in arms. Local Zambians were unhappy. Members of the UPND were very unhappy, and even some of those in the PF. So it has nothing to do with really that Hichilema was absolutely wrong. I refuse to that. But the lesson part of it, yes, but it's unfortunate. A lesson for what? Because already the UPND have a case that has not been heard in the courts of law. So we probably foresee a situation where the rights of the people and the opposition political parties are being infringed upon. And the cry of the opposition party right now is, let's dialogue so that we create a level playing field where we have an independent electoral body and commission. We have an independent police force. We look at the code of conduct, and of course we also overhaul the whole electoral process and system. We revise the Public Order Act, which as of today sort of favors the ruling party. Why can't we go back to 1991 when first President Dr. Kenneth Kaunda did allow the MMD under the leadership of late President Frederick Titus Chiluba to conduct their campaigns and party meetings in a free and clean environment. And obviously we all know immediately you sort of infringe on the rights of one sector of society, you will receive resistance. And at some point when people are tired, they will fight back. And we don't want that, because it's us, the women, that are actually suffering in the country right now, and our children. And then we don't have equal distribution of wealth as well, because some people have taken advantage of the situation. What we want to see is peace. We want to see dialogue. Again, we have two very strong leaders. One is the president, current incumbent president of the Republic of Zambia. The other is the president of the largest opposition party.
Jacqueline, just
So
allow
you
me to
can
give
imagine-
Anthony some space to actually have that conversation with you. Anthony, this idea
Absolutely.
that there was political motivation behind Hichilema being put into custody is not a new one. Human Rights Watch called this into question. The Saka Times here saying what a lot of people have been saying. We know that Hichilema's treason charge was trumped up. We knew that Hichilema's treason charge was trumped up. How do you understand what happened?
I think what I would say simply to that is I'm neither Lusaka Times, I'm neither Antonio Mwanza, neither am I Jacqueline Chishimba, but I'm adequately competent enough to say that I think the law, from what the lawyers have put forth, was followed. And also just to make a slight correction to what you said in your introductory remarks, that opposition leader, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, the charges against him were dropped. From the time that I checked with the lawyers and from the news stories that came out of the cause list, I think what happened is that the state entered a nolle prosequi, which is an Italian term, literally translated in English, simply meaning that the state had decided to discontinue this particular case against Mr. Hichilema.
Because
and this
why?
time there was a footnote.
Because there wasn't enough.
A footnote. Let me finish, Femi.
Sure, go ahead.
There was a footnote to that, and that the state had entered a nolle prosequi based on the fact that they were doing it on national interest. A nolle prosequi does not at any point mean that the state has dropped the charges. There is either an acquittal or a discharge or a nolle prosequi. So in the case of Mr. Hichilema, and on the record, be not misled, from what I read,
From what you read, from what you
the
understand.
state and what I understand, I stand to be corrected by the people who are on Twitter, the people who are sending you emails. But there was a nolle prosequi. But that's not even the case right now.
Femi, could I be allowed to come in?
A little bit and respond a little bit to what
could I be allowed to come
Jacqueline,
in?
hold tight, because Anthony didn't interrupt you. So let's just hold tight for a moment.
Sure.
I didn't get a chance to say anything because I thought it would be a very good idea to allow you to continue to say what
Anthony,
you wanted
please
to
continue.
say. I would like to say that there is no evidence to show that the state trumped up any charges. We do not even know the beginning of the end of what the state had against Mr. Hichilema. We are not fully competent to discuss the reasons the state decided to drop the case. But I think what we will be doing is we'll be sliding into extremely dangerous territory by saying that the Chief Justice and everybody else knew that the charges were trumped up. Because what that does, not only to our local community, but to the international community, is to poison the chalice, is to make it look as if our entire.
So Anthony, if I may, then I'm just going to throw this at you. If I'd spent 3 months in custody and I wasn't, I didn't have a trial at the end of it, I would be kind of annoyed, to put it mildly. I'm going to push on a little bit because we don't want to spend an entire show talking about this one point, although it is a very, very important point. Dan.
So on Twitter, we have Queen Duns who wrote us and said, the basis of the abandonment of this case against Hichilema is not necessarily being free. It just means that evidence may surface when someone wants it to resurface. Jacqueline, I'm going to throw that to you. Are you confident that this chapter is closed?
Well, not completely. It's a 50-50 situation. It's neither here nor there. But we are a little bit comfortable because there's a dialogue process that is about to begin. And that is why at the moment, I am uncomfortable discussing the whole trial until, it being disposed of and the nolle being entered into. But I think moving forward, we need to look at the conditions under which this dialogue has been agreed upon. And amongst that was first release HH. And that was directed by external forces. So that tells us a lot about our judicial system and the current governance system that we have, where we're supposed to sort out our own issues. Then the second one is, of course, we need an overhaul of the electoral process, the independence of the police and judiciary.
Jacqueline, if
We
you may allow
have
me to chip in
issues.
just a little
We
bit.
have issues.
Jacqueline,
We
if you
have
may
issues
allow me
that
to
need
chip
to
in
be
with due
cleaned up.
respect,
Anthony,
if you
can
may
I
allow me
finish?
to due
So
respect.
Jacqueline and Anthony. Anthony, go ahead very quickly.
If you may allow me to chip in, I think you did mention the intervention of the international community and,
Yes,
of
you
course,
should
the
have allowed me
subsequent
to go
entering
to
of
the
the
end
nolle
of my
prosequi.
point. What I am
In
trying
my
to say
view,
now
I
is that
think,
So guests, I'm going to ask you to go back and forth, and I'm going to help you do that because we only have a limited amount of time. And can you believe we're almost out of time? Anthony, finish your point very quickly.
In my view, thank you, Femi. In my view, I think the fact that President Edgar Lungu, who was declared a winner of the elections on August 11 and subsequently sworn in on September 13 as duly elected, showed magnanimity when he allowed former president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, to come in. I think President Edgar Lungu showed magnanimity when he allowed Baroness Patricia Scotland, QC, to come in to talk to him. I think he showed extreme magnanimity when he allowed the overtly critical church mother bodies, the Catholic bishops, and everybody else who wanted to see dialogue come in,
Anthony,
to come and see him.
Anthony, you're putting this very eloquently. If I just may jump in here, just for the sake of time. So what Anthony is saying, dare I say, is that the president is open to conversations from outsiders, saying this is what you should be doing as president.
And every corner.
Yes,
Jacqueline?
but you
That
see,
despite the fact
Femi,
that I am the
what
one
is
that won
happening
an
again
election
is
at a public
we did
forum
not
and on a
need
public court. I am still willing to
Anthony and Jacqueline,
president,
just take a pause for a moment.
Anthony,
I hear you, and I love hearing my voice a lot on TV, but hold tight for a moment. Guests, just give me a moment, because we actually have 3 minutes left. I want to use it wisely. Dan.
So speaking of moving forward about this dialogue that's going to begin, we got this tweet here, and I want to pose it to you, Jacqueline. Zax writes, the first question for opposition leader Hichilema is whether he has now accepted Lungu as the president of Zambia. Jacqueline, what's your response to that?
It'll be very premature to answer that right now. I think that's a question that will require answers. The dialogue process.
Jacqueline, how can this be premature? He's been in custody for several months. He had a lot of time to think about it. How can it?
127 days.
Yes,
how can it be premature?
Our laws,
to know who the president was, who was declared president,
there's no law.
who was sworn in as president.
Just give me a moment. I just want to hear Jacqueline's response.
Yeah, sure.
There's no law in this country that says we should all stand up and say, I recognize or I accept. We've just heard from Anthony that President Lungu was duly elected. So he is the president. It's as if going into a home and you telling your son that I am your father. Can you acknowledge that I am your father? So for the fact that you are the father, you are the father.
All right, good, very good. Anthony,
Okay, you are my father, but I'm
Anthony,
not just going to say you're my father because I have a right not to say you're my father.
Sometimes it's just
And I'm gonna do
irrefutable.
whatever you
Your
want
dad
with
is your
my
dad.
father.
All right,
And then
enough
you'll
of this
do.
analogy. Yes, I'm just curious. Hichilema and the president, can they meet? Can they have that conversation face to face? Anthony?
I think they are able to do that. And I would just like to repeat what I said earlier on.
No, don't repeat, because I don't want you to repeat it because we already heard it. Can they meet? You said you think it's possible.
To do that, except they have to have a level playing field. For instance, why hasn't Mr. Hichilema been refusing to accept certain results that were declared to be legal and binding by the Electoral Commission of Zambia in an election that was endorsed as free and fair by the Commonwealth?
There are conditions to whether these two men are possibly may be meeting.
By the European Union, by President Barack Obama, by China, by Russia, by France, by all internationally accepted standards
Anthony and Jacqueline,
election.
we appreciate you bringing your insight on Zambia and the current situation between the president and Hichilema. Thank you so much. It is a vibrant conversation. It will continue online. Dan.
I'm going to give the last word here to Clive, who's had enough of this political drama. He said, maybe now Zambians will focus energy on national development, invest time on the economy and other valuable issues, and not the politics of arrests.
Okay, I won't hold my breath, but thank you very much to our guests. #AJ Stream is where our conversations continue always. See you online. Take care, everybody.